All right, so Coach. If you don't mind starting off, just telling us a little bit about you. What's your playing coaching experience? Um, who and where did you learn offensive football from? I'd love to hear that from you.
Great, thanks so much. Yeah, so my experience was I got to grow up in a small town in East Texas called Paris, Texas. Was lucky to have a play for a Hall of Fame coach and who really took interest in me. And actually, I thought that my life was going to go into service academies. But he had such a profound impact on my life that it really did change the course of what I wanted to do with my life. And uh, that coach was so instrumental for so many things, even though stylistically, we were a wing T team. We were a wing T and threw it about 8 times a game, but very successful, won a state championship, and I got to play at the University of Texas for 4 years. Learned great offensive football there. John Makovic he was Tom Landry's quarterback coach, and then the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, and then he brought a playbook that had just about everything in it, and learning it meant you learned a lot of offense. And our cut-ups back was the early 90s, so our cut-ups were watching Troy Aikman and Steve Young, and so the Cowboys and 49ers pass install stuff that we would get, and then a little bit of the Broncos, when Mike Shanahan got there. So there was some pretty cool stuff. And then when I got out of college, I always knew I wanted to be a coach. My first job was working with a guy named Wes Cope, who's a high school coach in Texas, and I got to learn some of the working parts of the run and shoot offense. More importantly than that, I got to learn it at the junior college level, where you only have everybody for 3 semesters, and so it was a challenge. You had to be a good teacher. From there, I went and I worked for a guy who was one of the assistants at Texas when I was there, and at Abilene Christian, and he had some great connections in coaching, and professional development was really important to him. And so he brought in guys like Mike Heimerdinger and Norm Chow to do their pass installs and give us private clinics. And it was for a young guy, for being 22, 23 years old, it was incredible. So a lot of my background was in that. So you take some things that you thought were really, really good, the downhill running game of kind of what I learned in college, gap scheme stuff, zone scheme stuff, and then you kind of blend that with, obviously the run and shoot's a really exciting offense, but what kind of things make it really, really good, and then also dangerous at the same time. And then you kind of blend it with that, and so I had a system that I ran as a college coach, but I got out of coaching, and when it came time to teach my son, who was at the time 8 years old, I wanted an offense that would teach him the ideas, but then it was going to be something that was going to be learnable, and yet really, really close to where the pictures were put in his brain. That's the whole key to coaching a quarterback.
Yeah.
And so you put those pictures in his brain, and if you could teach it to an elementary school kid, then as it turns out, you could teach it to high school and college kids, and I see the read ideas that we came up with, when this thing got evolved. I see them actually as better solutions to some of the things that people are doing, even at really high levels of football. So really excited about that and confident in that. And so, that's kind of what we have right now. And I'm glad to be able to share this kind of stuff, because, that's what coaching's about. It's about helping people and helping others in the profession.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really interesting to hear that it kind of originated out of you teaching, really saying, how can I teach this to an 8-year-old, and how can I get them, to understand this? Because I know if I went and started talking to an 8-year-old, it'd be like, I wouldn't have even thought about it that way at first. So, what kind of changed, over the years? What have you learned? What's changed, um, as far as, coaching your offensive system?
The thing I learned the most is that the protection part of it. I always knew that it's important, right? Anybody that's an offensive guy knows that, hey, 2nd and 8 is okay, but 2nd and 18 is really crippling to a drive, right? And
Yeah.
and what I've learned lately is that there are so many more things that go into that, and that's what these last 2 courses that I put out were. It's about the totality that we have, coaching wise, being responsible for protecting the quarterback. So it's not just schematics. It's how we practice. It's how we install. It's how we read. It's how we formation. It's everything. So I talk about that, how we game plan, and I give some high level ideas, but that's the biggest thing. Because I could always get people open with routes. I was talking to somebody earlier today, a coaching buddy of mine, and who coached me way back when, and yeah, we could get guys open, but could we allow the quarterback the time to get that ball off? And that's really what was important.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So, I'm new to your offense, and I hear read and shoot, and I know run and shoot. At least I've studied it, so I feel like I know it. Haven't ever had the chance to run more than 1 or 2 plays of it, but love the run and shoot. It's a lot of fun. What's the difference between the run and shoot and the read and shoot, or what is it basically? What is the read and shoot?
I think the essence of it is timing. It's a timing based full field offense. There are more locked routes than in the run and shoot. I mean, obviously in this offense there is a big portion that's lent to option routes and other different kinds of read routes down the field. But most of what we set our tempo to, what we set the basis of our timing on is quick rhythm locked route. And so there's really more of we're blurring the lines between quick game and your possession drop back stuff. So that's kind of lending kind of an idea as to, what kind of drop back passing we have. We want to get the ball out quickly. We want it to be multiple. We have different ways of getting the quarterback's read taught. And so that's a big difference. So we can have the same pass pattern and on every play direct the quarterback to 2 or 3 different things or 2 different ways he could read the same pattern. And they're inherent in the system. And so it's not like they're having to memorize a different progression thing. That to me was, when people start teaching progressions and you got to memorize a third one or a second one, or, no, this is something that we can tell the quarterback on every play. Hey, we want you to read it like this. And that's something that's pretty exciting and I think helpful to the quarterback.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. So, got a couple other questions I'm going to go through here. So, does it work with is it an entire offensive system of itself, or does it work within other offensive systems? I think, does that question make sense?
Yes, it does. And it works with all different kinds of offenses. The principles of it are rooted in like the soundness of scheme. So, for a matter of fact, I'm working with a school right now who's blending it with their wing T running game. They've got excellent skill position players, but it's a small town, no linemen. So basically they're bigger guys that outgrow the skill position places. They're offensive linemen, so they're in 3-point stances. So we are. So this spring and winter I installed their passing game for them and built it on the very same principles. Now, obviously, there's things that we would change and we tailored it to them, but no, we can do it from a wing, a double wing, whatever. I mean, football is football. There's always 5 eligible receivers, and that's the key to it. There was some nuance of what we did for that particular team, but whatever offense, whatever run game, whatever personnel you have, it's something that can adapt and mold to.
Mm-hmm. That's super helpful. Got a quick question here from Mark, and I'm going to show it here, pop it up here. Who calls your protection, quarterback or you?
I call the protection. So the quarterback has the ability to adjust the protection. What we do is we give the quarterback an idea. So when I call the protection, it sets the front side of where his eyes go.
Mm-hmm.
And so it also directs where the blitz pickup people are going. So for the uncovered lineman or for the running back, it sets where they go. And usually we send them away from his eyes. So in a pure progression system, we want, obviously, if his eyes are on the right side, for example, then we want to send his unaccounted protection back to his left. Okay, that's as a general rule, right? But we do have some coaching points that we put in there. And like I've been saying, that the protection is a total team thing. So there's different ways we can do it, but the most basic protection calls are made by the quarterback, and we go over those kinds of things. He'll understand where he's hot and all that kind of stuff. But we will also make sure that we build in enough quick routes. So even some of our downfield stuff, we throw in quicker rhythm than most, and so we are able to put blitz beaters on both front side and back side. So if we're going to release 5 guys, we want at least 3 of those guys to be able to have some kind of quick apparatus to where we can get the ball out quickly. And then he can make adjustments to redirect protectors if needed.
Yeah, that makes total sense, Coach. So, if you had to kind of summarize, like, what are the core plays that you like to run or that consist of your offensive system, what would they be? You don't have to get into too much detail, but what are the core ones that you hang your hat on?
It's there's some blending of it. Okay, so I would say the core has to do with the snag route, right? The Y corner or whatever you want to call it, in whatever offense, 8 in the air raid system, where the outside receiver runs a 45-degree angle route. The inside receiver has a quick corner, and you shoot somebody to flat on the front side. So whether you flare him or whether you send him to the flat, you're affecting the same person. And then we can do different things on the backside. I think the main thing is we have a lot of very, very similar ideas, but we have a way of mixing and matching the front side and the backside. So another route would be like the 4 verticals package that we run. We used to be really big into 4 verticals. It was the identity of our offense because the streak reads were, quite honestly, the biggest thing I took from the run and shoot. That and actually the hybrid quick game stuff, the front side to back side thinking, even a quick game. But what I've seen in recent years, it's harder to throw 4 verticals. And so, one of the things that we've done is we've created either man-to-man or isolation type routes, because we've really defined the seam read as a zone route. All right. Matter of fact, in some old offenses, they used to call it a DZR, a downfield zone route, and that's I think the air raid even called it that. It's based on zone, and so what we want to do is whenever we get match man or match zone or whatever you want to call it, we want to have something better that's built in than just a locked seam. Now we have the ability to do that, and we will do that, but we have the ability to change front side and back side thinking.
Yeah, so that was one of just to mention real quick, guys who are watching, make sure you get this free course that Dan has posted right now, Principles of the Read and Shoot. He put some awesome stuff in there, and one of the first things was kind of that front side, back side against, I believe, cover 4, and how you run concepts either way. And I was watching that, and I was watching some clips where you were explaining how you have the RAM read, and which is basically read away from Mike. And
Mhm.
I was thinking, gosh, that just makes so much sense. You're gonna have numbers away from the mic. Wonder if you could talk about that a little bit and where that came from, and how you picked those two concepts and why you would pick one over another.
Yeah, sure. So the Ram read, it's a staple of the pro style offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the old all curl pattern, the three curls
Yep.
and the two guys going in the flat. The read used to be thrown away from the drop of the mic in a you know
Right.
in a and so that really is just an extension of that. I got to work with several people. We had ways of doing it, mic push kinds of things and and all that. But I worked with a guy named Ken Collins at Abilene Christian. He's at Central Arkansas now, who really put it more into more of a spread kind of system,
Mm-hmm.
and and that just opened up. It just basically unlocked my brain in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different directions. So you could have stick and then levels, or an option route and then levels. On the backside, you could have seam reads and ways to throw it. You can go with curl flat and be more efficient in how you do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
There was just so many things that you could do with that kind of thinking, and so from there, just deciding how to build reads and patterns based off of that became really easy.
Mm-hmm. I was wondering, how how long does it take your quarterback to figure out, all right, he's going to read away from the mic, but then he's got the pattern that he's got to read, or or progression or concept on the other side. How does he progress from that to the other concept, not knowing which way he's going to go either time?
So when that happens, I mean, it doesn't take any time because it's what we build into the install for us. So we tell him, I want Ram read this, and of course, you teach it in the classroom first, and you have
Mm-hmm.
standardized routes structures that you would want to build that off of. And so what you typically start off with is like a cover four defense, right? You got four
Yeah.
guys over the top, and if they get pushed back, they'll keep backing up. And what that
Mm-hmm.
leaves you in with a four-man rush is three guys underneath. Well, whichever the opposite side of the mic goes, you got a possible 2-on-1 stretch on the outside linebacker. It becomes really
Mm-hmm.
easy then. Matter of fact, I liken it to a stretch drill that we do all the time. Every 2-on-1 for us is a stretch, right? So you go curl flat against the flat, stick flat, whatever, snag flat, or levels, high low, and you get it to be a stretch opposite the mic. And we had a drill where it's a 2-on-1, so you basically walk off a square in the flat area, right? You got a little rectangle of cones. You put one defender in the middle of it. You put your two other guys, and then the defender can never be right. And even working with the kids, it takes them about 5 minutes to realize the defender has no chance,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like it's cheating, and so we build our stretches like that, and that's exactly how we do it. So we start off teaching regular stretches where we progress into it, but then it becomes really, really easy to say, Mike's going this way, my stretch becomes here,
Uh,
yeah.
Gotcha. So they already know how to read a stretch fast. And
Yes.
then you just basically say, here, I'm going to give you a key for finding the side to read the stretch,
Yes.
the best side. That makes sense.
Right. Right.
Awesome. Very cool. And so when you say stretches, are you talking about horizontal or vertical, and, high and low stretch? It could be any kind of stretch, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we have different ways of calling that as well. But yeah, we have a basic, when we're working against the flat defender, it's usually an inside out or outside in.
Mm-hmm.
We have some set rules, but we have a way of calling that in our system. And again, you're talking about, I made this terminology up with my 8-year-old. And so patriot means inside out because I comes before O in the word patriot.
Mm,
and dolphin means outside in because O comes before I. So it
mm.
was, I mean, it was really that basic and that simple of an origin when, you know, it was like, okay, what makes sense here, you know? And so that's how some of these names just came out to be. We tried to make them all NFL teams. So a scan was stealing.
Hmm.
So.
Oh, that's cool. So, do you think this will work with pretty much any kind of quarterback? I mean, if you're a small team, you know, and your quarterback's pretty raw, not a high football IQ guy, can they run some of this stuff?
Oh yeah, I think it's about building pictures, and you know, it doesn't. You don't need to be book smart to be able to play, and I think that's one thing that we miss sometimes, especially at the quarterback position. We say a kid's really smart. We say a man is really smart, and they can get on the board and draw their favorite play. That doesn't really impress me all that much. I want them, you know, especially when they talk at this time where they're evaluating NFL guys, right? And
Hmm.
they say, "Hey, get on the," you know, well, in the
Redraw.
NFL,
Yeah.
I want you to draw your 20 most favorite plays, not your one, because that'll never work in the NFL. So what's the point in asking that? I think you could put pictures in a kid's brain. So here's how I liken it. All right, like when I can remember things vividly from my childhood. I can remember, you know, what it felt like to get my first base hit, for example, in baseball. Just, you know, if you had a hit to win the game, you remember what the picture is, what the emotion is, what the ball looked like coming off the bat. We remember those things.
Hmm.
We remember bad things. I remember the position of a ball in the air when you knew it was an interception, right? So
Hmm.
we remember these things for our entire life. And so what this offense does is we teach it systematically to where you put the pictures in the quarterback's brain. And so, like I said, you know, that little stretch drill, 2-on-1, you know, so it could be curl flat, it could be snag and a flare, it could be anything. But if there's one defender and there's two guys and they're spread far enough apart and you've got a good enough arm to get it there, right?
Hmm.
Then, you know,
Yeah.
then you know, trash cans can beat, you know, an all-state guy if they're far enough apart, right? You could hit the trash can before he gets there. So it's
Yeah.
about, and all we're doing is sequencing it. We're giving him keys to look at a certain spot, and then we try to make sense of those keys, right? So, for example, the snag, what we talked about, you know, we call it 471. And actually, I'll get into this in a little bit, but I actually have two languages now. So not just the numbers, but I have names. So, but anyway, what I've called 471 is snag. And the first thing that we look at is the corner, because the corner tells us if he chases that 45-degree angled route, if it's man to man or not. If it's man to man, we're throwing the flag route to the inside receiver.
Hmm.
So there is no stretch. We don't have to worry about it. That's a man beater that we have built in rhythm, and we could throw it quickly, and we can
Hmm.
throw it accurately because there's certain things that we do to make that happen as well. And
Right.
so, you know, if he bails, then if he does not chase the man that's running inside, then we treat that as zone. We don't care if it's man to man and he's confused or whatever. We just know that he's not chasing our guy, and that's a quick key for the quarterback. And now he's got a stretch in the flat. And
Yeah.
so we give him things that are pretty common sense type stuff. We sequence
Hmm.
them well, and we call them well, and the most important thing is we practice them over and over again. And so even though we have a lot of things that could happen in the course of a football game, we have a lot of different combinations. There's only 7 route structures to what we do.
Okay. So, do you typically go into a game able to carry a lot of different looks to challenge a defense, as opposed to, I'm thinking, you know, kind of the air raid style, like we've got two formations and it's either mesh or it's cross and it's always the same play?
Yeah, no, I've never been like that, and I've never believed in that. So we have structures, so it looks the same to us, but I'm not. I'm all for it not looking the same to the defense all the time. So
Right.
I can
Yeah.
tell you that, like, you know, my son, when he was an 8th grader, he had 108 plays on his wristband that we took into every game. It was our install in the summertime, and he took it in every game. Now, how we called the game, how we formationed it would be different, but the stretches were all the same. The ideas were all the same. And so we really deviated very, very little. We had a lot of different ways to attack, an inside linebacker who would walk out on number 3, for example. If we go to trips and they are going to play too high, then Mike has to carry your number 3. And we had a bunch of different ways. So if really Mike was the guy that we were going to break, we could go do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. I love using all the tools that you have available to yourself to just wreck defenses. Which reminds me of the clips I was watching in your free course on the boundary verts. And I was just going to ask you, I mean, you had some awesome clips there. The guys were like walking into the end zone. Is it always like that? I mean, that play that's something else.
I mean, I don't want to say always. I mean, there's things that can happen, but if you take a defense that's built on rules, right? Everyone is. If you get into high school or junior high, everyone has to build on rules if they're going to keep up with you, because if you're playing fast at all, they have to be able to line up, right? If they can't line up, don't worry about it. But if they're built on rules and you start putting 4 guys into the boundary, but their rules are field boundary, they're playing the percentages there that you're not going to send 4 guys on the boundary. And so when you can space it like that, they really have to be superior to you to not be able to get that kind of spacing and those kinds of stretches. You don't want to do it all the time, because there are things you open yourself up to protection wise. And, there's just a lot. If they're going to push everybody in the boundary, then, obviously you want to go back to the field with your numbers, but there's ways. And of course it's in the way we package everything to where it's not a different read for a quarterback. So it's actually a combination of a couple of different ideas that are really basic to us.
Yep. That's awesome, Coach. Just to let everybody know, Coach Gonzalez has, I believe you got 6 courses up on CoachTube right now. And one of those courses is the free Principles of the Read and Shoot. That's only available till Thursday. Then that's coming down. So definitely get that. But also, I see you've got a bundle that's up right now for $99. It's a great deal. So just wanted to share with you guys that, and there is a special bonus. You're going to do a live WebEx install for anybody who gets this bonus or gets this bundle. Then you'll get that bonus included. So just wanted to let everybody know I'm going to pop up here. If you're interested, before we get into some more questions, and I know you've got a big announcement coming at the end as well. But it is really a fantastic thing. I've started looking it over myself. I'll just show it right here. So the Read and Shoot System bundle over at CoachTube. Check it out. I'll leave this up for a little while. Anyway, what are real quick? What are the courses in that bundle right now? I don't have it offhand.
There's actually, there's 6 of them without the free course. So there's actually 7 total right now. So the first one is creating half field concepts. And so it speaks on different ways where we can accelerate the read for the quarterback across the field. I can see Cody's question. I'll get to it in just a second, but that's kind of what that course that's, for an hour, a little bit over an hour, maybe close to an hour and a half. That's what it talks about. The second course is about, what I talked about in 4 verticals and how, how do we expand 4 verticals to make it effective? And it's a real problem. They say the struggle is real. I was a couple of weeks ago meeting with a Division I offensive coordinator going over this same kind of stuff. So, that is, that's a big part of football right now. Sections 3 and 4, it's kind of, I broke up the smash concept into 2
Mm-hmm.
courses, because it was like a 3-hour clinic. And so now you got 2 1.5 hour, just kind of a more basic one, and then a more real advanced one. But as you can kind of tell, if you're going through it, a lot of our ideas, I think, are pretty genuine. There's a lot of, there's nuance to it. It's not just like everything else you've seen, especially if you get into the teaching aspect of it. So that's what courses 3 and 4 were. And then of course 5 and 6 were my holistic, protecting the passer. And we actually talk about pass ideas. We talk about protections. We talk about game planning. We talk about different things that we use to augment protection, to help the protection along, whether it's protection calls or special plays. We talk about that. We also talk about how we game plan a pass rusher, So those kinds of things are in those 2 courses. And I think those are each an hour and a half long as well. So there's a lot of content to it.
Yeah. And you're from what I'm seeing, what you'll see in the free course as well is it's teaching, you're teaching on the board, you're teaching on the screen, and then you're going into the game and you're showing the actual game clips. And you've even got some nice annotations over the game clips that help explain it. So definitely, coaches, I highly recommend it. Wanted to jump back to a question we had. Want to do Cody's question?
Yeah,
right
sure.
Here?
Okay. So he says, it's we can mirror, but they're normally a different front side and back side. When we accelerate across the field, we usually go pure progression. But like I was saying, the original ram read, the way I learned it, the way everyone, was the old pro formation all curl. So 2 backs in the backfield, a tight end, 2 receivers, 2 outside curls and a curl over the ball, and then 2 guys in the flat. The original ram read, that's a full field read, and you're reading the mic, and you're throwing away from him. Now, defenses have progressed from that. And so we talk about in the course, we even talk about the kinds of ways we mix and match front side, because they're really in 2 high, they're really in brackets, they're really in man-to-man on one side, but zone on the other. So we talk about different ways to make it the same for the quarterback, so that he's seeing the same things over and over again.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. Here's another fun one. James Jones, 108 plays. How do you drill the plays so they can remember them? I know he's curious how you did that, and I'm thinking you were doing that with your son too at a lower level, right?
Yeah, he was in 8th grade. And he, you know what? There's only 7 routes. That's the thing about this, and that's what we're talking about. We have a lot of different ways. So it's not different plays, it's 7 plays, but we have the able to present it to the defense. And so it might be doing it out of a basic spread formation, and then we might condense the formation, and then we might condense the formation on one side and bring a receiver in motion from the other, so it's really one play.
Right.
Okay. Or we might exchange responsibilities among those people. But the verbiage that we came up with, they never got confused. And in fact, one of the most intimidating things, we had wristbands, but when they were younger, one of my just silly things that I would just call the plays out, because and when your kids can hear something like that, like A screen 471 switch Patriot, and they're 9 years old, and everyone just sprints to their spot and is ready to go, then they just get more confident in it. But what that did was it was talking to every person on the field,
right.
And so there was never a confusion. So broke it down to, hey, I'm an outside receiver. I always have the first digit, no matter what.
Yeah.
So that's 471, 472, 486. I'm just running a 4 route, And so that's how we made it, modular for them. And so that's how we were able to accomplish that. But, really did some good things. I think that year completed 71%, and 38 touchdowns, to like 4 interceptions in like 9 games. So it was, we were doing some good things. And the prior year we weren't as good, so we were shooting out more often. And I want to say, it was like something like 51 touchdowns because the 8th grade year that I was referencing, the games were over at halftime and a lot of the time. So, but before when we were having to shoot it out with people, the touchdowns were like in the 50s and kind of the same kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's starting, like there's a little bit of a trend away from being so multiple, and I'm just waiting for it to come back because, it's just, I played defense in college, and that was one of the things was just dealing with getting my alignment correct, making sure the assignment I had was correct, and then playing it correct was just 10 times harder when you didn't see the same thing. And you saw, especially when you saw a movement before the play, especially when it shifted, the numbers of players from one side to the other side. I was a corner, so I probably had it easiest because I knew I just had the widest in zone, but I felt it for the safeties and for, everybody else. So yeah, I feel like it's got to come back.
That's the exact point, and that's what we were starting to do. So we were starting to bring guys down and stack them, and bring them in closer, even if they were further away from the formation. We would do that, and then bring a guy in motion or bring a running back closer to it, and just kind of mess with people's rules. Or right before the snap, have a and then you motion them out, after they've made their bunch check or whatever, to expand the set right before the snap. And then people have to communicate. And to us, it's nothing different. I really think that's why we have a healthy amount of one-word play calls, but we are able to carry more offense because of our verbiage. And like I said, we have I have now 2 language systems to where it's just a front word and a back word, and we can get everything communicated as well. So
interesting. I can't wait to dive more into this. Let's see. Another question that I have for you. All right. So we had a question that came in the Facebook groups. Do you have a different pass protection scheme for each concept, or how do you determine how many protection schemes you carry into a game?
So the secret to it is in drop back, we only have 1 protection. So for the offensive line, there's too many fronts, there's too many stunts, there's too many things the defense can do. And if you're trying to match what they are doing all the time, you're going to fight a losing battle. And so I actually talk about this in my protection classes. So we have 1 set of rules that carries across all things. We try to make sure that we take care of free rushers with either hot throws or the ability of the quarterback to change the protection. Okay. But we can add protectors always. So the offensive line, the core unit, has 1 thing that they got to learn. I can add a running back in. I can add a tight end in. I can add in a tight end and 2 running backs in, or 2 tight ends in to the protection scheme as check releasers. And so we can get as many bodies that we need to in there. What I found, though, is that we really want to stress all the rules. I want people wondering about who's got who. And even in big-time college football, you see people out of position when they blitz because people are going so fast nowadays. And, if the offense would just have a way of dialing that in. There are certain routes where we want to back out right now. And so, I do call that. I do, when I need a stretch and the back is a critical part of the stretch, then I will free release them, right? So because I don't want the defense to dictate to me. Okay, so a tactic, if I were a defensive coordinator and I knew, for example, that you were gonna block a linebacker every time he blitzed, Well, then if you had Marshall Faulk, I would blitz the linebacker every time, and Marshall Faulk would never catch a pass. Now, what kind of a crime would that be, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, just think about McCaffrey right now. Think about if their protection scheme only said he's going to block every time. Now, of course, they won't do that, right? But
right. No.
But if that's what it was, then that's a tactic you can use at high school. So, to me, there's trade-offs, and you got to know people, and you got to know your opponent and how good you are. But I think that that's part of coaching. That's part of the fun thing is mixing things up and getting some variety in there. But the main thing is you're dictating to the defense.
Mm-hmm. Let's do one more question here,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna have you make your final big announcement. So this is kind of I don't even know that I understand this question. So I think it might be coming from a guy who's really studied you a little bit. It says, can ACTS and it's ACTS and the navigation tags be successfully used in another system, particularly air raid? I really like the read and shoot, but I don't think our OC is ready to full dive into it yet. If we can get our feet wet with ACTS and the tags, I think we'll warm up to it.
Absolutely. So what he's talking about, ACTS, is that's the acronym that we have for our reading system. So I've talked about half field reads.
Yeah.
The full field progression it stands for advantage, concept, third fix, and then scramble. So you're keeping time with your quarterback's feet. And so, like we said, we accelerate the rhythm of everything. And we want him to get through at least 4 guys, okay, and say we're 2.6 seconds. So if our protection lasts 2.6 seconds, he can get through 4 of his 5 receivers. And so that, to us, lends us to, hey, we can really attack the full field. To answer your question, yes, there are principles in all the air raid passes. As a matter of fact, a lot of our stuff looks air raid-ish. I mean, we don't run mesh over and over again like some people do, but we do have a lot of the same structures. And yeah, you can absolutely do that. All it's going to do is speed up your quarterback's reading.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, what's new? What's on the horizon for you? What do you got coming up?
Well, so in the next 10 days to 2 weeks, I've got 2 more courses coming out.
Awesome.
And so really, really excited about those. So that people have talked about my verbiage, and if you've read my books, it can be a little bit cumbersome, right? And so one of the things that I did for my clients, I created a separate language, and like I was saying, instead of saying something like ace green 471 switch patriot, we would say green flash bat, and then that would be the play call. So you would have the protection, front side and the back side. It tells the quarterback's read. It tells the backside. It talks to everybody and transforms it to where you're getting all the same information that we had, but now you are not encumbered with, some people like words over numbers, and some people like just being able to have short names in their patterns. And so, but we wanted to be able to convey the same amount of information. So I think one of the things that we've, it took 8 months to restructure. This is a lot of offense, and it's a lot of coaching points and things like that. And in order to have a structure, you had to pull the whole thing apart before you put it back together. And so my first course is going to be about restructuring the passing game. So I'm going to talk about non-negotiables and the things that we went through to get to it, and kind of talk about the structures that we got into. And then I'm going to have a second course. I've gotten a lot of questions about empty passing game. And so my second course is going to be about, throwing the balls out of empty. And so, we got those 2 things: restructuring the passing game, which is a language type of thing, and then empty passing. So those are 2 new deals that we have, and they should be out, like I said, within 2 weeks.
Awesome. And so, like we were talking beforehand, you're going to have a special coupon offer for anybody who, if you get this current bundle he's got right now, or even if you just get the free course that Principles of the Read and Shoot, you're going to get an opportunity to have a coupon for 50% off those 2 new courses. So definitely, you know, now's the time. Make sure you're on that list so that you get those emails when those 2 new courses come out, because they sound awesome. I can't wait to see them. I'm especially pumped about that empty passing course, but I'm just excited about your restructuring, because I mean that's kind of like the nitty gritty. Like, let's get down to it. What do I really need to know to make this communication process work better? So I'm really excited about those that you've got coming out. And so, just in summary, coaches, before we sign off here, we have the I'll throw it up here. The bundle. Dan has a bundle. It is going to be available until this Thursday at midnight. All right, so you got a few days here to grab that, but make sure you don't forget and get that right away. That includes all 7 courses. It includes a free course. And the bonus to that, if you grab that, is a live WebEx install that he's going to do just for you. So that's pretty cool too. As well as you're going to get a coupon for the next 2 courses coming out that will be really helpful. So there's the link, coaches. Just want to make sure I get all that information out for you. And just on a personal note, I really want to thank Dan, because of all the guys I've worked with, you've been the kindest, most generous, and coaches are awesome, but you've really been awesome in working with me on setting this up and doing this together. So it's a huge boost to Football Coaching Brotherhood and just getting guys on there. And so I really appreciate you for that. Thank you, Coach.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. Any final words, Coach? You got any last things to say?
Not nothing else than what you said. And I know that there's some people who have been patrons, and I know I'll be getting some questions. I'm really loyal to the people who have helped me out, and to the people who have bought my courses. And so whatever kinds of discounts, that free clinic, everyone that obviously buys this bundle, but the people that bought, like, for example, all 6, they'll come. I'll make it work for them as well. I plan on doing a good job with the install clinic. So getting to more of the X's and O's, and just talking about showing you things, showing you video with it, just like I would for a player.
Appreciate it, Coach. That's awesome. Thanks for everything you do for the game.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to sign off. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with the Football Coaching Brotherhood. Tell people about it. Share this video so they can watch it too. It'll be up for another 4 or 5 days on the page. So get on the page and click share and put it around so guys can see it. All right, later.
Okay, thanks, everyone.